All right. Hello. Welcome, everyone, to Wine, Women, and Words. I'm Michelle, and with me, of course, is Diana.
Hello.
And today we welcome back Camille Di Maio to the show. Thank you so much for coming back, Camille. It's so good to have you again.
Thanks for having me back.
And tonight we're going to be discussing your new book. I have it right here, The Beautiful Strangers, which has it already come out, or did it just recently come out? It's a brand new book, right?
Tuesday, so it's 2 days old.
Yes,
it's a newborn.
So you're still in the celebrating stages of it.
Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, all the fun parts of it right now are happening.
That must be the best part.
It is fun. I was just so humbled on Tuesday. I was overwhelmed with how many people were posting and supporting it. Just coming out of the woodworks, that's such a blessing. So it was better than a birthday. It was your book's birthday. So I'd rather have the attention on that.
Yeah, book birthdays are always better than your regular birthdays for the most part, so long as age is not brought up.
Yeah, well, 2 days old. It's new. So it's good.
Yeah, you still have that launch week haze where you're tired, but yet you're excited and all this stuff is happening.
That's right.
And Tuesday was such a crazy day. There were so many books releasing that day where it was like, yeah, I knew of one, and then it was like, oh, yeah, and this book, oh my gosh, this book actually releases today. I gotta wish her happy book birthday.
Yarla's birthday on Tuesday as well.
It was a great group of books, and it should certainly be checked out, if not just for that gorgeous cover.
I know. The publisher just really knocked it out of the park with that one. So I was really grateful. And it was in the 30s today where I am. So that beachy cover just makes me want to dive right in and be there.
Dude, it has been raining where I'm at. So yeah, I'm like, is it summertime yet? Because this makes me feel like it should be summertime. That's my only problem with the book, is that you're making me wish it was summer, and it's not summer yet.
Was it okay that's coming out in March and has a beachy cover? And she said, yes, people are going to be wanting the beach by the time it's
March. Yes, we absolutely do. And the setting is the big part of it. It's the Hotel Coronado in San Diego.
It is. I love that place. We were just talking about that. I've been quite a few times, but the last time I went was in 2016, and it was the first time I went as a writer, and it was my husband's idea. As we were walking around, he said, you should really write a book about this place. I said, oh, I know, because I'm always drawn to setting. Setting is always where I start with my books. And so I knew that Some Like It Hot was filmed there, so I knew that piece of history. And he found out that the hotel had a ghost. And so there were this ghost story and Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe, and they were 60 years apart. And I wanted to make sure both of them were in the story. So how do I incorporate a story with these two events of 60 years apart? But that's the fun of writing. You can do that.
Exactly. And it's crazy. I didn't realize, because I've watched Some Like It Hot several times. Love that movie. It's such a classic. I didn't realize it was a Hotel Coronado where that was filmed. That's so neat.
Yes, all the interior shots are the Hotel Del. It's supposed to be a Florida hotel. In the movie, it's in Florida, but it really.
So for those who aren't familiar with the book, why don't you share with us the basic premise?
The basic premise is that there's a girl named Kate who lives in San Francisco. It's 1958. She's working in her family's restaurant, and she really, really just wants something more than being a fish fry cook. And all of the rest of her family seems very content to be doing that. But she has Hollywood dreams. And so when her grandfather, who has dementia, implores her to go to the Hotel Del Coronado and find the beautiful stranger, she doesn't know if it's his dementia talking or if it's something real. But it becomes her opportunity to just break out and do that. And she discovers when she's there that Some Like It Hot is filming. So there's this way that she gets to befriend Marilyn Monroe. She falls in love while she's there. But in the meantime, she also finds that she shares a name with the hotel's ghost. So there's a mystery element, too, as she tries to figure out, why does everybody keep saying, oh, you share a name with the ghost? She needs to figure out what this connection was and if her grandfather really did have a reason for her to be there.
That's very cool. Now, what was it like building the character of Marilyn Monroe? because she's so iconic.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm assuming building that friendship, you've got to really delve into some of the backstory for Marilyn.
I did. And her parts are a few chapters. She's not the overreaching part of the book, but a few chapters where I really did devote to Kate and Marilyn as they were becoming friends. And I read several books, not only about the filming of Some Like It Hot, but I read about Marilyn Monroe herself. And then a really instrumental book was the memoir that Tony Curtis wrote about filming Some Like It Hot. And so he had a lot of impressions of Marilyn Monroe and what state of mind she was in. And I've seen interviews on YouTube about how she was always running late, always forgetting her lines. She was not really in a good place when she was filming the movie. And so I got to take that piece of time that was that Marilyn for those couple of weeks and give that her personality in the book. So it's not Marilyn as we know her from beginning to end. It's Marilyn as we know she was during those couple of weeks. And I'm pretty troubled.
Yeah, it is. And this is one of the things I love where you pull out you find the great settings. Like the last one was Penn Station, right? It was a train station with the gargoyles. And now we've got this great hotel with this iconic film. And we get to learn so much because I didn't realize that Tony Curtis wrote a book based on filming at the Hotel Coronado and that there are all these books on it. And now I'm like, okay, I've got a million more books I've got to add to my reading list after I read this.
That one was really Curtis's was just really a good one.
Well, and Hotel, I mean, besides Some Like It Hot, Hotel Del has a huge history with Hollywood and with writers. I mean, even I know L. Frank Baum used to come down and stay at the Hotel Del, and he would tell kids like stories from The Wizard of Oz while he was working on it. Yes. Or maybe after or before he actually wrote it. I'm not sure the dates. So it's really interesting to see a book kind of tied into the history of what the hotel stands for, because it's such an icon, not just in San Diego, but and it's beautiful.
It's beautiful, and I love description and setting, and it just made it almost easy to write that. And I'd look at pictures of it and it just sprang to life, like the gold lace elevator and all these things. And I know my agent really liked that phrase, and I said, I didn't make it up. It's there in the hotel. It was right there for me. But there were so many fascinating bits of history. Like during Prohibition, there was actually this kind of a mob ship that was off the coast in international waters, and they used to allow gambling and alcohol and probably prostitution out there on the boat off the shores. And it recently washed up to the shores of Coronado. And that is so interesting. So I thought for a while, well, maybe I'll incorporate this ship. And then I found out about L. Frank Baum writing a few of the Wizard of Oz books. So there were other movies filmed there. So Hotel Del provided 50 different ways I could have gone with the book. I had to pick these two that were my favorite, but because of the way I had the narrator involved, I was able to touch in little tiny ways on all of those things. So she makes a mention of L. Frank Baum. She makes a mention of Lucy and Desi as they're brand new there, talking about what kind of show they're going to create that becomes I Love Lucy. And so that happened at the Del. So I have opportunities to touch on those really magnificent moments, but picked the two main events that I wanted to bring into the story.
Absolutely love it. Now, were you able to talk to the Hotel Del Coronado at all about your book and your research?
Prior to research, I didn't, because there were really so many books available that were telling me what I needed to do. So I didn't need to dig in at that point. I did have a trip planned there last year that had to get canceled last minute for family reasons. So some of what I was going to do, I didn't get to do. But the books provided that in advance. I am in touch with somebody there right now, though, who I'm sending it to, and she's really excited about it and wants to maybe try to put it in the shop and everything. So I think there might be, and I'm going out next month too. So might be a future connection with the hotel, but I didn't really get to dig in there in person and research.
Well, that's okay. That happens, and yeah, and afterwards stuff, yes. And then we can read the book. We could go down there. We can have lunch there, and it can just make the book all the more immersive. I love that when that happens. I want to touch a little bit. You mentioned about because I just got my book on Monday. Yeah, Monday was when I got it, the day before it came out. So I haven't had a chance to finish it all. So this is why we're just skimming the surface of the plot. For the dementia character, that's something that because dementia touches so many people, both, in my workplace, because I work with the elderly in estate planning, and then in my own family. What went into, what was the reason for the grandfather being dementia, and what went into creating that, trying to give that character some depth to entice his granddaughter?
Well, it started thinking maybe the grandfather would have been involved in the mob ship, and then when I decided, okay, I'm not writing about the mob ship. I didn't really want him accompanying the granddaughter on this trip. I wanted it to be a woman's journey. She was really, so I thought, what would have to happen with him to send her on this journey, and what would be the mystery involved? And I thought, well, if he couldn't even figure it out fully, then she had to just go on trust. Well, what would cause that? And my grandmother had dementia a pretty big way before she died. And so I witnessed that in a grandparent and all that they were losing. And I thought, well, that would be a reason that Kate is very close to her. She's very sad that her grandfather in this case is going through that, and would want to honor his wish, especially. He's not dying, but he's losing his memories. And this is kind of like a dying wish. Go find the beautiful stranger. So it gave her a reason and just fit with what needed to happen in the story. Mm-hmm. But it was close in my family, and so I was able to bring those elements into it.
Mm-hmm. Michelle, do you have any questions?
Oh, of course. I
don't want to just hog the interview, because I could just keep asking her questions about Hotel Del Coronado and all these interesting bits about the book, but don't want to shut you out.
There are times that I have all the questions. There are times that you have all the questions. And I also have a 5-year-old right here taking out her stencils and her colored pencils. So that's why I'm using my microphone whenever someone else is talking, because the sound of colored pencils going everywhere.
Yes.
If anyone is listening, I apologize if there's chaos in the background. But we were talking before you got here, Diana, that I loved going to Hotel Del. When I lived in San Diego, it would be in a nice day date to go. Rich and I would go there. But so many times when you're reading stories about Hollywood, back in the day, a lot of the locations or the buildings or the monuments they talk about, a lot of them aren't there anymore. Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, Diana, help me. Which book was it? Was it Another Side of Paradise? Where
the Gardens of Allah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's gone, and that played such a pivotal part in the story. It's really nice to read a book about Hollywood back in the day with, some of the major players in it, and have a location that's still there that you can go to and go, oh, this is where this scene happened. Or, it's exciting to be able to connect with a book like that.
Well, it's true, because as y'all know, my last book was set at Penn Station, the old Penn Station in New York that was since torn down, which is the whole point of the book. And all that's left is this one eagle that sits outside. And so I have readers go by and like, oh, I saw the eagle, but the train station doesn't exist anymore. So it is really cool. I've already had some early readers who live in the area who, unbeknownst to me, they've gone there and they've taken pictures of their book with the hotel in the background, and then they tag me on it. And I go, oh, that's so exciting. Because as a reader, I certainly love when I do get a chance to go to a place that I've read about. So I like that people are already telling me, oh, I'm going in the summer, I'm going to bring your book. And that is nice, they can see it. The other thing I like is I like the idea of writing about old Hollywood, but not set in Hollywood. There's a lot that's set in Hollywood in that era. So the fact that I could have that era and that vintage feel, but in this beach hotel location, just made it a little different. And I had fun with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because people never, talk about how engrossing Hollywood industry is in California in general, because it wasn't just Hollywood. It was the desert. It was Las Vegas. It was the beach. We have all of the settings, and they went to a lot of the settings before they did a lot of the, on-site filming. So that's really cool that you're able to bring that in, especially, California, we have a tendency to tear down a lot of our stuff and build up new. That's our thing.
One thing that was really interesting is right there on the same island of Coronado is the naval station and the air station. And so I learned that when you go now, you can go to the beach and you'll see an airplane fly overhead, but that was happening in 1958 as well. So imagine trying to film a movie and you're already trying to work with lighting and temperamental stars and all the things you have to work with. But then you also have to work with military ships going by in the background and the military aircraft going overhead. And it just created this drama, like all that Billy Wilder had to deal with.
Now, did the director go mad? Because I can imagine the director going mad over that. Just losing his mind.
I read that at one point during filming, the aircraft was going over every 20 minutes. I mean, can you imagine trying to get a scene with a star who keeps forgetting her lines? Like Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon would literally take bets on how many takes they would have to do for Marilyn to remember her lines. And Billy Wilder was telling them, if she gets it right, I don't care what else you guys were doing. We're taking that cut. So imagine that you've already got her to deal with. And then every 20 minutes, aircraft is flying overhead. I can't imagine how hard that would have been. So I got to bring those elements into the story and kind of bring in his own frustration, which just makes you appreciate what he came up with in that movie all the more.
Yeah, it makes me want to go watch the movie after this, because and especially that story with Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon making bets on how many times she'll forget that. That's kind of crap I would do. Michelle and I would be doing that. I would be the horrible person who came up with the idea, and Michelle would be like, "Yeah, that sounds great."
Well, and I learned this one I did bring into the book, but because the guys, Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon had to be dressed in drag for a good amount of it, Tony had created this contraption with this hose that would go down his leg so that he could hopefully just go to the bathroom without having to untangle himself from this whole girly get-up, and it failed.
Good.
I was reading in his memoir about him creating this contraption and giving that a good try. It's like, oh, that has to go in the book because that's just too fantastic.
That is, and I'm sorry, if you're going to dress like a woman, you're going to have to put up with all the crap that we have to put up with.
A little ode to, the men walking in the women's shoes. They were doing it quite literally in that movie.
Michelle, you were going to say something?
Oh, we have a birthday party in 2 days, and she was informing me that she's saving the rest of her birthday present for Build-A-Bears. Sorry.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Priorities right here are.
She's got good priorities. I give her kudos for that because I would be saving half of my birthday money for Build-A-Bear too.
I would too.
So tell me what it was like. You've got this era, this theme of mystery, this mystery thread going through the book. What was it like building that in there? Because I mean, we didn't in the last book. I don't remember there being much of a real mystery. Much of a mystery element in there. And this one, is this the first mystery that you've been able to build into a story?
My first elements of it, I like to give the reader a reason to keep turning the page and say, well, what does that mean? What's going to happen? The Way of Beauty didn't really lend itself to that sort of thing, but, when I got into The Beautiful Strangers, it did. The story allowed me to do it, especially the grandfather's dementia. And this quest he's sending on, is it a real thing from his memory, or is it a wild goose chase? Mm-hmm. He's the only person in her family supporting her going to do this, but he doesn't even know why. So it allowed it to be a little bit of a mystery.
And how was that for writing that for you? Was it fun for you? Was it a lot of work?
That was a lot of fun because I'm really a pantser. You've got your plotters that have all their, Post-it notes. They know exactly what each chapter is going to be. I'm totally not. I'm completely a pantser. So I knew that I was creating this mystery, but I didn't actually know the answers myself. So literally, as I sit down, here's chapter 14, and I'll go, what's going to happen in chapter 14? I don't know. I think about it as a reader. What would my reader want to happen in chapter 14? So as much as I set it up to have this mystery component, I didn't even know what the answer was until I got to the point where I wanted to give the answer. I have fun writing it as a reader or with my reader. So
I think that's the best part because then you can't give away any spoilers ahead of time.
I do have to go back in the editing process and make sure that I plant just enough seeds that work out in the end. You don't want to just pull the rug out and say, hi, here's the surprise. You have to set it up a little bit. So the editing process allows me to do that. But the getting to the end is as much a mystery to me in every one of my books. Going. This is just a fun ride. Let's do this.
I love hearing who the pantsers are and who the planners are because everything in my life, I'm a total pantser when it comes to everything in my life, except for my writing. In my writing, I am a total and complete planner down to note cards. I've got to know what the plot is. I mean, I can drift away from my outline because I have, you know, a Pirates of the Caribbean view of my outline. It's more like a guideline. But I've got to have that there. That's my security blanket. I can't just be like, oh, hey, this is the way it's going to be. It makes me panic.
And I look at my friends' walls with their coordinated Post-it notes, and they use Scrivener. I'm still just using Word because I'm not fancy enough to use Scrivener, I think. But because I do historical fiction, and so much of what I write has, as I do the research, I find these gems, you know, like L. Frank Baum, different, you know, Tony Curtis's bathroom contraption, all these things. I like to leave room in what I'm going to do to discover those things and really be able to weave them in. I personally feel for me, if I overplanned it, I wouldn't leave room for those surprises as I research. So a big space to do that with.
Now with your research, do you, for me, when I research, for me, it's research, then draft, then research, then draft. I kind of go back and forth. Do you have a similar kind of thing, or do you research as you go along? Or you do all your research at the beginning?
No, it's really as I go along. So I kind of it's just enough to give me the basis I need to start and say, okay, this is going to be the story. Because there's like 4 or 5 ideas going on at any given time. So I need to do enough research to say, this is the story to write right now. And so I do that pretty thinly. And then after that, I research as I go. I like, here's what I need. Okay, let me go find that and research. And then I can fill that in with what I found out.
I mean, to do historical fiction, you've got to love research. I mean, that's got to be your jam. You've got to love it, because otherwise it's just your SOL.
My favorite part of almost all my books has been something I've discovered in the research process. So I'll geek out over some fact I want to know. Oh, my readers would want to know that too. So I have a lot of fun with that.
And I was just going to say, I love what you said about writing from your reader's standpoint, like trying to figure out, you know, okay, this could happen, or I have no idea what's going to happen next, but what would my readers want to read most? Or, you know, alternatively, what is the most predictable twist that could happen, so we can try to avoid, you know, predictability. I really like that mindset for a writer. I've never tried. I don't think I've ever tried writing from a reader's standpoint. I think I might give that a shot and see what happens.
I think I sort of fell into that. It wasn't, you know, I haven't taken writing in college or anything like that. I just read so much. Like last year I read 116 books. I just read so much that's the forefront of my mind is how to do that. But literally, like, I think it was the end of chapter 13. And I got to the end of chapter 13, and this character says, "Come in, Kate, I have someone I want you to meet." And that sort of just came out of my hands. And I went, who is she going to meet? I literally didn't know how to start chapter 14 because I had just simply said, "I have someone I want you to meet." I go, where did that come from? What is that even supposed to be? So I start chapter 14 with my hands on the keyboard going, okay, who's she supposed to meet, and what is it supposed to mean? And then as you just start writing what comes to you, I think it's all buried there in the subconscious. It comes out without over planning, for me at least. And then what I did write, who Kate did meet, ended up being really pivotal. But I don't think I would have come up with that if I over planned it. So that I'm really thankful.
Yeah, and to say that you're a reader is an understatement. I've seen your Instagram, woman. It is all books, all the time, every recommendation out there, that with all the books, literally all the books.
I love doing that. So many of the people who follow me are readers. I mean, my friends and family do, but the vast majority of my following is readers. And what do we want? We want books. So I love getting recommendations as a reader on Instagram. So I feel like, you know, people hopefully like getting book recommendations from me. And then, you know, authors have been generous with me. It's my way to be generous back to them and give them a shout out. So I know that. And then it's just fun to make pretty pictures. Some people are way better at it than I am, but then I'm better than some. I'm trying to work on that. But I'm looking pretty.
Yeah, I have to say Instagram has seriously upped my photography game and trying to do photos, man. There are some really talented people who can do photos better than I can, but it's still fun. Books are the best, I would say second best source that you could have for taking photos. I mean, first would be dogs and cats, because they're always just fun. But second would be books, I have to say.
Well, I have been looking at the cover and saying either what item could I put with it or what color could I put with it. And I've been encouraged that you'll get more followers if you make it really uniform. So when they look at your whole feed, they see like it's all pink and khaki, or I don't know. I like to be unpredictable enough that I say, well, this book I'm reading, what would be pretty in this picture? So as you look at my feed, the colors are all over the place, but
I'm the same way as you. Yeah. I'm all over the place because mainly my brain's all over the place. So I can't just have a uniform Instagram. There's too much planning for that.
Yeah, I love watching those. I mean, the stuff where it's all so planned. Wow, that was beautiful. So clearly I'm a pantser in Instagram as well as my writing. Yeah, I can't plan that very well.
Yeah, like I said, we've established I'm a planner only in my writing. Everywhere else, I'm a pantser.
But Instagram has definitely pushed an old-fashioned typewriter further and further up my list of things I want to buy because those pictures are beautiful.
Yes, I'm satisfying myself with just finding old typewriters at vintage shops or whatever and taking pictures. I haven't found the one I want yet, so I'm having fun taking pictures of ones that I'm not buying. I put those on there every so often too.
I have yet to find one. I need to go next time I go hunting. I need to go like actively searching for it. That or just take my book with me to the antique shop and just stay there. They won't mind as long as I don't break anything.
I have this cafe that I go to frequently, and right at the front door they have a typewriter, and so I will bring a book sometimes. I know I can count on there being a vintage typewriter there.
I know. I go somewhere. I always have a book with me. And I go somewhere, I'm like, oh, that's going to make a good background. Let me pull out my photo and do that.
My best is I was reading, Jane Healey came out with the Beantown Girls a couple months ago. And I got a really early copy, so it was before it even had a cover. So it was just like a really plain cover. But the book was fantastic. So I thought, how do I do justice to this book, which is great, but it's got this super plain, it's just black and white right now. There's nothing but the Beantown Girls by Jane Healey. So I happened to have it with me when I was out at Busch Gardens. And I was in the bathroom of the Italian section of Busch Gardens, and the floor on the bathroom was this gorgeous black and red and white.
You put a book on the floor?
I'm putting the book on the bathroom floor. So I took a picture, and it was a great picture, and it just allowed the plain book to get this beautiful background. And I texted it to Jane, and she's, oh, it's so pretty. I was like, it was the bathroom of Busch Gardens. So it's probably nasty, but...
All for the love of Bookstagram, people.
All the love of Bookstagram, yes.
So that we can get the best book recommendations out there for you.
It's service to the people.
It really is. I mean, because seriously, that's where I go now for my primary source of what to read. I barely go on Goodreads anymore. Sometimes I'll go on Amazon. But it's not for book recommendations. Instagram is the main place I go to, like your account and other accounts for what books am I going to read next.
Yeah, it's a great source for me. I have a few Facebook groups that I really rely on for good sources too, but I spend most of my social media time on Instagram. It's a happy place. I love the pictures. It's great visuals. It's politics free. It's a happy place to be.
That's a thing. Yes, it is a very happy place. I mean, I managed for my Twitter feed to cut out like 98% of the politics. So politics only come up every so often, but it's like all book people, all writers. So I'm like, I'm having a very happy Twitter experience right now. People listening, please do not ruin that for me. Join in on the happy experience. But yeah, Instagram, it's just kind of felt like it's that place where people come in, you don't post memes very often. It's pictures of people actually doing fun stuff and what we're reading. Which, I mean, I'm still taken back by the fact that it's propelling the book community forward. And helping people talk about books. You wouldn't think that with the social media platform that would do that. And not only that, it's like, I think it's pushing forward the physical book industry. Where people want to see pictures of.
It's a conversation I've had with my publisher because they're really big on ebooks, and so many authors have ARCs and so forth, and my publisher doesn't tend to like ARCs very much. But I've made a book push. I said, look how hard I've been working on my Instagram. I have all these Bookstagrammers who follow me that I keep in touch with. A Kindle copy is just not going to do it for photography. So I've made a big case for that, and they've really delivered and really, really helped out with ARCs the past few times, which has been great, because then the Bookstagrammers, people can do beautiful things with the Kindle ones too. I'm not as good at that. I like the paper book. So I'm glad they've heard me and they've been real supportive about providing that. But it's because I made Instagram a big platform for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can only do so much, I think, with a Kindle when you take a picture of a Kindle. And sometimes those ARCs don't have the gorgeous covers on them.
Yeah.
And it makes it,
You take the gardens and you photograph it on the back.
Exactly. People are like, why are you putting your electronic device in the bathroom? And sometimes you can't even get your electronic device into a facility. That's the other thing.
That is another problem, yeah. The book. So I'm all paperback all the way, which, a lot of my sales are Kindle, especially since my publisher is under the Amazon umbrella, but I'm that kind of girl still.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with the ebooks. I still enjoy me some ebooks, but yeah, paperback is great.
Yeah. That's my because it's toppling with books.
Well, our half hour is up.
That.
Well, I figured I'm already dominating this interview. Might as well just go ahead and go that far too.
That's okay. Well, thanks for coming on again. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Can't wait. A lot of readers have told me that they love the last page, so you'll have to tell me when you get to the last page.
Oh, absolutely.
That's been coming up in the reviews. Like, they like my little ending.
I know. I can't wait for summertime season to take photos with this too. Because I'm going to read it for beach season too, but I'm also going to take photos during summertime season I do all the tiki drinks because I think this needs a tiki drink next to it.
I'm also
Thank you so much for joining us again.
Oh, you bet.
It's a pleasure.
All right.
Yes. And everybody, check out. Oh, my dogs are on my lap, so I couldn't get to my book. But check out The Beautiful Strangers. Yeah, there you go, Michelle. It's available now. Pretty much everywhere books are sold, and Amazon specifically too. If you want to go with the Kindle route, we will not judge you.
We'll not judge
that. Yeah, wherever you want to buy your book, it's just so long as you buy the book.
It's audio all over the place, and I love to connect with everybody on Instagram if you can't tell. So.
Absolutely, and we'll include Camille's Instagram her handle. Thank you.
Right.
I haven't had enough wine yet today to be able to get the words out of my mouth properly. But we'll include Camille's Instagram handle so you guys can go check out her Instagram and see all the books that she recommends. And usually I see, sometimes there's some hints about the next books too.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure.
All right, good. I'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Now you're listening to Learning to See, as I just keep jumping in on Michelle.
No, and now my dog's barking at me. He never barks at me at night. I don't understand what's happening. I have piles of books. I have my planner, my journals, and all that right here. And then I have, what? You just came in and you want to go back out? He's looking at me like, yes, I do. It's I don't even know how cold it is right now. It's
perfect.
21 degrees. Is that
husky weather?
No, that's not right. It's colder than that. Well, according to my phone, it's 21 degrees, which is prime husky weather. He sits our backyard right now is a glacier of ice. And he takes 2 steps on the pavement that's bare, and then he slides forward on the ice because he can't handle it.
It's 56 degrees currently where I am, and my dogs are on my lap shivering. So clearly we have very different dogs.
Man up. That's a heat wave. I think Chicagoans as a whole, I think once they reach a certain date on the calendar, everyone is just I'm done with jackets. No matter what the temperature is, they as a whole decide that jackets are no longer necessary and they just stop wearing them. And I think we're reaching that point this year because even it was 18 degrees last Saturday and I left the house. Oh my goodness. I left the house with no jacket on last weekend, just a sweatshirt. I was like, no, it is March now. I am not wearing a jacket.
Yeah, well, my dogs cannot man up. They, yeah, they're little, and Lilo's tiny, super, super tiny. And if it drops below 70, this dog is freezing and shivering and is like, oh my God, the apocalypse is nigh. So that's just life in general with that dog, though Fizzgig is perfectly fine at 56. She just wants the excuse to sit on my lap. But we need to transition to learning to see. Yes. What chapter are you on? Because I'm finished. I didn't wait till this time. I said, screw Michelle, I'm just going to finish this book because it was just that good.
I'm on chapter 10.
Okay.
So, you know, I have a decent chunk done. I mean, maybe away-ish.
So.
I think it's interesting, though, how this week our two books, one is in San Francisco and one starts in San Francisco and goes down to San Diego.
Right? It's a San Francisco theme.
I'm like, what year is this? I went, oh, no, it's way before 1918 and 1958. So way before. I was going to say, maybe they crossed paths. Who knows?
Maybe. So tell me, what are your thoughts on Maynard? By the way, guys, there might be some spoilers coming up. So if you have not read up to chapter 10 yet, if you don't want any spoilers, this is a good time to pause and read up to chapter 10.
He kind of reminds me of Richard from Friends, and the actor's name.
Yes, that was exactly it. I couldn't picture who it was. He is totally Richard from Friends, and now I'm going to picture him. What's his face?
Reynolds, right?
No. Yes, Burt Reynolds is forever now going to have to be casted as Maynard in the casting of this. And if it is not Burt Reynolds, it has to be somebody who looks like Burt Reynolds. With the Burt Reynolds mustache, because he has the mustache.
Yes, he does. And I think, so I'm at the part, and again, spoilers, if you're not at chapter 10 yet.
We've warned you guys enough. You guys know that there's spoilers. Okay, continue.
I'm basically at the part where he's walked her home a couple times, or he walked her home and they didn't kiss, and then she was kind of like, WTF. And then he basically invited himself to Franzi's engagement party and walked her home again and didn't do anything, and she was like, WTF.
Okay, he's trying to be a gentleman.
And at first I was like offended for her, like, seriously? But then, you know, I stopped and thought about it, and at that time, like, that was a respectable thing to do, was to not go into a woman's boarding house the first night you walk her home. And that's still kind of the respectful thing to do. I mean,
exactly. No, you know, but yeah, and also let's not forget that he's much older than her too. So he's also coming from another time period where that kind of stuff is, there's much more of that old school romancing kind of thing going on too. So he's not going to go inside with her the first night anyway.
So, but I'm also really intrigued by the two friends. So there are three friendships at the beginning of the novel, or when she first gets to San Francisco. There's Franzi, which is who she came with. But then at the very, very beginning, she talks about the two best friends that she had in her life and how different they are. One of them is Imogen. And the other one was...
I liked Imogen. Now, before we go on to Imogen, did you finish chapter 10? Or you're not finished with chapter 10?
I am at chapter 10.
Okay, you're at chapter 10. Okay, because there's something that comes down in chapter 10 that I'm like, girl, I need to discuss with you, and we totally need to unpack. Because that's the only thing that gives me pause on Maynard. So, yeah. We'll go back to the friends, but you're going to have to keep that in mind. And I can't wait for you to finish chapter 10 because I know I'm going to get text messages from you going, what the... Oh, that's right. You got a kid there. WTF. Because, yeah, I'm having... That is my only problem. And it also goes to show that sometimes women don't think properly when it comes to men. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about it now because I'm going to give you spoilers.
Well, okay.
But as soon as you get to that point, you've got to tell me.
Well, are we talking about the fact that he had a wife that he had institutionalized, and he has a daughter that he shipped off to boarding school.
Yes, and I am concerned that you are not as upset by that as I am.
Well, I was upset about that because it totally made me think of Fitzgerald and Zelda
Mm-hmm.
and Sheila.
Mm-hmm.
But I was more bothered by Imogen and how, like, she seems to be a little extreme in her emotions.
She's a bit of a frenemy in some regards, where she's that best friend that you have that is also has this toxicness to her. She's slightly toxic for Dorothea, I think. In some regards, she's not so toxic that you don't want her around her, but she's toxic enough where you can only take her in certain doses. So the fact that she told her about this, I can understand from a friend point of view. Like, if you were dating a guy and I knew that he was married, as soon as I knew, he'd have one of two choices. He would have to tell you within 24 hours, or I'm going to tell you. I would not be able to keep that secret that long, and if he didn't tell you, there would be hell to pay. And I would expect the same from you. Yeah, I mean, girls got to have each other's backs. But the way I think she did it, it was as if it felt like she couldn't wait to share this bit of gossip with Dorothea, and she couldn't wait to see what Dorothea's actions were. And the way she interacts with Dorothea and a lot of the book feels like she has this need for Dorothea to need her. And that's what?
It sounds like a sledgehammer on your end. I can hear it echoing, but it's actually a pencil sharpener that he is attacking.
We're going to go ahead and put the show on hold for just a moment while Michelle goes and takes care of her dog.
I got it.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, no, I agree. Like, even before Maynard came in the picture and Dorothea had her studio and business was booming, and, you know, most friends would have been, you know, just really happy for her. Imogen came in and kind of gave her crap that she wasn't coming to the camera club meetings anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, she was too busy for her friends. And I feel like Imogen, Greer actually posted an article that she wrote the other day about working writers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that article because not only am I a working writer, and technically you're a working writer too, because you are a mom and you got mom stuff to do and you have a journalism career. I hate the idea that you have to starve for your art, and that as a writer especially, that you have to be cloistered in with a little room by yourself to write all the time. And I love that Dorothea is a working artist.
And I feel like Imogen is the artist who would starve for her craft, even though she's not starving by any stretch of.
She's not starving because she made her husband, who is an artist, go get a day job so that she could be an artist.
So I feel like she is the consummate artist, the consummate photographer who lives, breathes technique and craft, and she can't understand someone who would put ambition ahead of her dedication to, you know, the creative expression.
And you also have to stop to consider when you look at, and I love the fact that at the end of the book, you can look at the end of the book, but do not look at like the last phrases. You know, there's at least enough space between the last chapter and the very back part, because you get to see some of her photography. And if you guys follow us on Facebook, on our Facebook page, I posted an article that had a number of her works on there. And I think one of the things that shows through her artistic work and her regular day job where she was taking portraits was that was an opportunity for her to really hone in on her craft, where she's taking these portraits and she's catching people in the very true and honest light. And that made her all the better of a photographer when she went out and did the photography on the Great Depression and on those concentration camps. And it really shows that when you're an artist in general, whether it's photography or painting or writing, that day job can feed into your art. Like, I feel that I became a better writer when I became a paralegal. Mind you, I spent a lot of my time writing nonfiction stuff, and my grammar had to be on point, and my spelling had to be on point, and it still does. But there was a very preciseness that ended up going into my writing because of that. And a lot of lawyers become really good writers. And I think it's that day job that helps feed into your art.
I agree.
I went on a whole soapbox there.
Like a full-fledged discussion tonight.
Absolutely. That was me slamming my wine glass down.
Well, I think I've never, I mean, honestly, the only picture or the only photograph that I could recognize, that I could look at and say, oh, that's Dorothea Lange, was, I think the picture that probably most people know, the migrant mother or worker, or was it the one in the back? Migrant mother.
Yeah, that's my favorite of hers. And that's, I think, the most iconic one of hers.
Which is in the back of the book. We're going to cover up the questions right there.
And like I said, it's on our Facebook page. So if you guys want to see that, go there. But that's one of my favorites. The other one that I recognize as hers that I absolutely love is the Japanese children. There's a photo. It's on the second page there. If you haven't seen that one, it's so great. It's Japanese children in the concentration camp where one kid's holding the flag and they're all saying the Pledge of Allegiance while they're in a freaking concentration camp. And that just is such a powerful photo in and of itself.
Yeah, it is. And there's actually at the end of the book, I mean, don't read the very end, but a lot on Elise's research. Like here we have a note on sources. So she tells you, what she sourced for her book. And then, I mean, don't read too much into like the Q&A because I did just stumble across a spoiler inadvertently. Oh, no. So, I mean, one that I kind of figured would happen, but I wasn't really prepared to that confirmed. But anyway, so just be careful when you flip to the end of the book, boys and girls.
Yes. And one of the things I want to talk about Maynard, and because we got on this rant about Imogen, but one of the things I want to talk about Maynard is, so Dorothea, her father abandoning her was a big thing in her life as a person. And she's marrying this guy because not only does he have a wife and, who's in a mental institution, he's got a daughter that's in a boarding school on the East Coast who's not with him and not with any, family really at all. He's basically abandoned his child. I can kind of feel like that would be a hypocritical of her. If her father bothered her that much, why is she with a man who did the same to his own child?
Well, because she's in love, and whatever. I mean, I don't know. I haven't read like far enough to kind of know. I read the part where she kind of confronted him ish about it, and basically he didn't really address his daughter. He just said, "Oh, that marriage is over," and that's it. Like, I feel like that, but you never mentioned the fact that you were married. But, and again, like, they've hung out, 4 times? And I understand that that's not really a first encounter date. Like, hi, nice to meet you. By the way, I was married. She's in a mental institution now. And my 10-year-old daughter is in a boarding school that is on the East Coast. So do you want to go to dinner?
Sure, I'd love to. You sound like a great catch.
And by the way, I am 20 years older than you, or 40 years older.
Even better. it's a really weird contradiction, and I think it also goes with the fact that women have a tendency to go for their fathers, for men who are like their fathers in a lot of cases. Not every case, not every case, but you see that similarity between Maynard and her father. For me, it felt like you started to see that in that chapter, and that's one of the things where it shows. How do I put this? I don't want to say stupidity, but maybe a frailness or a bad judgment on some people's decisions. Because like you said, she's in love. And this guy is already exhibiting behavior just like her father, in a toxic way, just like her father.
But in a way, yeah, he is. But one of her like deep-seated fears is that he left because of her disability, because of her foot and her leg after polio, right?
And Maynard then accepts her.
And Maynard is the first person who like doesn't even acknowledge that she has a limp or that she has a bad leg. And when he actually sees it, like he acknowledges it and he embraces it. So in that sense, where she feels like her father left because he couldn't take her, I'm using air quotes, deformity, Maynard sees past that. So that could be a huge factor in why she might be willing to overlook these slight omissions.
And it makes it sound like Dorothea's got daddy issues, which is quite possible. She could have daddy issues. Plenty of women out there do.
Well, I mean, when did her father left the family?
She was like 12. She was like a teen. She was just a kid.
And I mean, that's old enough to have, obviously a relationship with your dad. And prior to that, she had a good relationship with him. I mean, as far as I've gotten, I don't know if it changes, but the memories that she goes over, they're good memories with her father, and she loved him and he loved her. And then something happened and all of that changed. So I would say that she has daddy issues, especially since she saw him literally walk out on his family and he never looked back to see his kid. So yeah, definite daddy issues.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, for me, reading this book, to me, it felt like a very easy book to read. Not like
it's a very, very easy read. Very no.
Yeah, there's this nice conversational tone to it, which is what I dig. It's like I'm sitting there with, Dorothea over a cup of coffee.
That'd be cool.
Right? I think she's totally going to get an invite to my fantasy dinner.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very interesting that we're meeting Ansel Adams in the book. And there are some people that you never hear their first name by themselves, like Marilyn Monroe. You don't. Well, okay, you do hear Marilyn. Give me an example.
Frida Kahlo.
Like you don't hear just Frida. You don't hear, or Patrick Swayze. That's what Rich said. You don't hear.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, even if it's fiction or historical fiction. If it's a book, it's really cool to have someone say, "Hey, Ansel, will you give us a ride to the ferry?" Like, Ansel Adams. Cool. This is my third moment for the evening.
Which will be the first of many, guys. This is just her first moment while the camera's on.
Yes, well, obviously.
I mean, there's a reason why we are friends.
I'm also cleaning up stencils as we speak because the mess is bugging me. It's past 8 o'clock. All the toys should be away. This is my type A coming out. We're talking about nothing in your life is planned except for your writing, and I should show you guys my planner because everything in my life is planned except for my writing.
My plans start and then they just fall apart. I have planners that die by June. I think my longest one lasted till June. I have a calendar. I've got my Google Calendar, and that works for me. But yeah, beyond that,
I'm so excited. Actually, it's all the way over there, so I can't show you guys. But I bought a journal. If anyone bullet journals, you guys know what bullet journaling is. That's what I do. So I like make my planner, and I'm down to the last pages. Do you know how satisfying it is to actually fill a journal from beginning to end?
No, because we already established mine died by June.
I ordered my second one now. It'll be here on Saturday, so I can start fresh. I know. These are the things that excite me.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, they're very valid things to get excited about. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I feel that way about my lecturing journals. Because that's where I do all my little handwriting and like little scenes that come to me and when I'm out and about. And I write down notes in my lists and things of that nature. Those books are my Bible. And I've got like a stack of them that are building up now.
Well, we are just about at our hour now that we're talking about bullet journals and type A personality obsessions. But next week we have
Acer Salmon on to talk about growing up on the wrong side of the table or something like that. Very long title, but very good book. I'm very excited to have her on the show and talk to her because she was at Book with Aura with me and she's a lot of fun. And we're going to enjoy our interview with her.
Yes. If you haven't read that,
And keep reading Learning to See.
This one, that was the wrong book. We'll see everyone next week.
See you next week, guys. Bye.